Well, for all of you out there in internet land, this is Charles. I'm the product developer at the home of the BioBlaster ozone machines at bestozonemachine.com, and I'm here with David Phillips. And David bought some equipment from me about a year ago.
January this year, January, March.
Yeah, about 11 months ago. And then he found another organization called NOAI, and met a gentleman named Mark Tipton. And so I just traveled down to Florida today, to Gainesville, to talk to David, because he shared with me some really interesting stories about his experience with NOAI and his experience with Mark Tipton and company and their organization. And that's an organization that was conceptualized by myself and Mr. Tipton at a meeting when he came to ask me for some help in developing an online education course for green mold remediation. And I asked him if he'd be so kind as to put together with me an ozone certification and training course, and then later reneged on his promises. And so I just thought I'd like to ask David some questions about his experience. Those are my experiences with Mark and NOAI, and I just thought I'd like to ask you a few questions. So how was it that you found the National Ozone Association?
I visited your site daily, and I followed Larry Craig's business. And then one day on Larry Craig's site, he had this little envelope on the top. I blew it up and said NOAI. And I found a video where he was endorsing NOAI. I thought, wow. I knew he had like 15 of your machines, and now he's endorsing those. I said, maybe he's onto something. So I checked him out. And
you know, I actually gave Mark Tipton Larry's phone number, his address, along with several of my other customers, so that in putting together the ozone certification course, he would have some resources besides me to, ask some questions with when we were putting together our certification and training course. And he was one of the people that Mark turned to and pulled the rug on me and our agreements.
in Larry's video, he actually said Mark asked me to join, called me to join, so he pulled him in to get that logo on his website.
Yeah.
And it gave them some credibility from my perspective, because he had so many of your machines, and I thought, wow. So I started checking him out and went from there.
And so, if I understand it correctly, you invested in the big mama, the whole enchilada, the $5,000 regional protected territory.
You have to remind me of that?
Yeah, if you could just, share with the people out there in the world that might be considering NOAI and investing in an ozone business, just a little bit about what you were promised and how things unfolded.
Well, after I found his site, I saw these packages, one for $2,500, one for $5,000. And when I talked to Mark on the phone, he explained something I'd been aware of, that in the ozone business, a lot of times you'll buy a machine and get a job like a car dealer, and somebody will walk in behind you with another machine and do it for cheaper. He said, we've got that covered, because as a regional, when you buy the $5,000 package, then you've got access to a product called BioZone, an antimicrobial. And I had seen it on your site, and I asked Veronica for information, and I did get information back. And Mark sent me this beautiful 5-minute marketing video. I said, wow. So I was impressed, because I thought I can do an ozone job, put on BioZone, and nobody's going to walk in my back door. And then he explained the regional program for $5,000. I would get a protected area. I said, define this. It's 10 miles from your base of business. So you can recruit other people to work with you, and you'll control all the contracts. So if they try to go behind you, you're covered because you've got access to BioZone. I couldn't beat it. I saw that, and the other thing that sold me was he showed me a video on his little 14K going up to 19.9 parts per million in 53 seconds, and talked about how bad the other machines were. And I'm like, wow, that guy's got great machines in this. So I bought the package. And
tell me about the machines a little bit. That's interesting. That particular video I feel is just so disingenuous to people out there in the real world that don't know a lot about ozone equipment and ozone machines. The streamer that I use in all my videos, you can see it will flutter in this breeze, but it barely moves the gas out of the box. In one of their videos, Mark puts an ozone meter right at the end of the output of this device. shows it climbing to 20 parts per million. Well, folks, if you hold a meter in front of a very low output fan like this, right in front of the generating elements, you may get to 20 parts per million at the end of the orifice. But that has nothing to do with the parts per million in the ambient air of a room or space. That is what we measure whenever we test an ozone generator in our ozone test chamber. We're testing the parts per million concentration in the room itself that we are measuring, and then we data log that output. And this machine will never create 20 parts per million in a room in seconds like he shows in his video. It's just because he's holding that sensor in front of the output.
Real world that don't know a lot.
Machines, because an ozone meter is designed, David, as you well know, to measure ozone in the ambient air. And when you hold an ozone meter at the output end of it, in this case a very low CFM, low pressure fan, high levels of ozone are definitely being generated right at the end of that machine. But how does it work in the real world when you try to use it on a job?
I'll tell you. I bought your machine and I had no use of using it. I got it January 15th. So I stuck it in my color because it was too cold to go out and do anything. And then I joined Mark's organization, and he sent one of 3 machines. And when it came, I was shocked because it was the same identical box you were using. And I thought you and him were in some big scam together. So I quickly opened them up. When I pulled yours out, it was a nice and heavy machine. I pulled Mark's out and I thought, oh my gosh, I opened them up. And yours was this huge 1.5 horsepower motor with a hose and everything. I went up, Mark's like, this is a piece of PVC pipe in here. What the heck is this? There was no hose. I called and said, where's the hose? Well, the $250 was for the hose attachment, the white piece on the end of the tube. You know? That's part of the mechanism, it's an assembly. What do you mean I'm paying $250 for that? So I took him out in the garage, put him on my workbench, and I had a piece of tissue, and I turned on yours, stood across the side, and the tissue blew and it took my breath away. Turned on Mark's. Hello? You couldn't hear it running, and there was nothing. When I do a car job, I use yours on this pedestal, and I put 1 or 2 of his inside just to make people think I'm doing more, not believing they're doing much. I did one job 3 times with 28, his 14K, before I actually got the odor out. And I ended up going back with your carpet machine.
So you were able to get it out with one treatment with my carpet machine, where 2 of his machines inside the whole car didn't get rid of it.
Yeah, the carpet machines, I love it. I put more of them.
Awesome.
It's a beautiful machine, yeah.
Awesome. You know, and that's, you know, this, rather than picking on NOAI for a second, I'd like to just take a few minutes to talk about the carpet technology. You know, that's one of my first patents that I filed. We're still waiting for it to be issued. We're getting close. And, you know, that carpet machine is one of the biggest reasons why so many Mark Tiptons have come and gone in the ozone world. There are half a dozen ozone licenses or franchise businesses for sale in the United States today, a couple in Canada. And in almost every case, in my opinion, the reason they fail is the equipment. And, you know, there are still 20 to 30% of your jobs that will be carpet-based odors or duct-based odors, that nothing really works as effectively as to actually force that gas through the hose and the wand, either into the carpets or into the upholstery or through the window of a vehicle, you know, or you know, into the air duct system. Especially, you know, here in Florida, there are mold spores and mold problems in virtually every AC system I've ever inspected. And I've been to Florida 100 times in my life. My family lives down here. And you know, they don't do ducts in Florida like they do up north, where we have metal duct work and, you know, metal duct boxing and metal cages around our furnaces. We have a lot of flex duct and fiberboard down here, and that fiberboard is just a tremendous bionesting area with the extremely high humidity conditions, and that hot air mass meets cold surface condensation that you get in a condenser portion of the AC unit. It's a breeding ground for bacteria and mold. And thank you for the compliment about the carpet machine, because I really think it's a vital component. It's one of the reasons why a lot of these franchises come and go. They come and go because of the equipment. It's the equipment, folks, which is what I've been telling people for years. So Okay, so you get the machines, you try them out, you realize that 2 of his machines can't carry the jock strap of one of my machines, to borrow an analogy from Larry Holmes.
Well, none of that. When I got the 2 he mailed, when you did this, one of them jingled, so I was afraid to turn it on. When he came down, we met in a hotel just up the road, in Perkins. He goes, "Oh, no problem, that happens all the time in shipping." I'm like, "What do you mean it happens?" He said, "It sounds like one of the plates came loose, but they're field repairable." So we walk out to the back of my car, and it's like 25 degrees, and he starts taking this thing apart, and he's like, "Now, you can take pictures of this because the wiring, you got to unwire." I'm like, field repairable, your unit is like 6 screws, boom, boom, plate. He spent 35 minutes unhooking wires and disconnecting this tube inside, and pulling it out and reconnect it, and I'm like, "I can't do this, this isn't field repairable." So I started videotaping him to catch him in all the lies he was in, and it was just amazing because I thought, wow, Charles throws his off the top of trucks, and this can't handle shipping for UPS. What have I got in here? I was afraid to use them. They're going to break and I can't repair them.
Yeah.
So I take him on the jobs to make it look like I'm doing more, but in fact I'm not.
Well, so you actually decided, we struck a deal. I traded you a couple of my BioBlasters for a couple of your AllOzone machines.
Right.
And I was really shocked at the second machine that I got, which was the 28,000, the one that, like you said, is in the PVC pipe. It is a pretty awful design, and I was, not only is it impossible to get your hands in there to pull the plates out, like you mentioned, but the whole tube is hogging the airflow, and this will be available in a future video to show people. But
the big 240 CFM fan.
Yeah, the fan is, that whole interior of that tube is being hogged by the transformers that are dividing the bottom. It's the same thing that I talked about in some of my very oldest videos that I shot 6 years ago in my garage after I built my first ozone machine with the ozone tunnel. Not to mention they're violating my ozone tunnel patent pending, but be that as it may. So, okay, so the machines, they're not quite what they're cracked up to be. But, he gave you a lot of other good stuff, right?
He advertised a lot of other good stuff. He put a value of like $2,000 on the website, $2,500 on the marketing materials, and that's when I started getting really, really angry because what I got for $2,500 in marketing materials was 2 brochures, 3 of these, and a 5-page booklet.
These are the brochures, huh?
Those are the brochures, and I had to...
You had to print them yourself on your...
Print my name on them, print them myself. I thought it was all included.
So these don't look anything like... I almost brought a copy of what our template brochures look like to show you, but I can tell you, folks, they don't look like these. I'll shoot a video segment to show you what you get from us.
$2,500 and 6 of these tear sheets.
So this looks like something that he did on his computer at home.
It's a word processing document.
A Word document.
Word doc, yeah. And just paste in your name and phone number.
I see.
My wife was less than disappointed when I said, "Going to the printer? Why? To print my marketing materials." I thought they were included for $2,500. Well, he included a template for a brochure. That was just very ungood.
So basically, he borrowed the template brochures from my original odor removal package.
Or you could take it off any template website and just type something in. I'm not sure who made it.
So now let's talk about the BioZone protectant. You did find our Get Sanitized system.
Yes.
And we pulled that off the market for a while. I was working overseas on some large projects for the poultry industry, and we were looking for a very successful partner to develop our business systems in a very much more professional way. Because while I've had so many customers that have started successful odor removal, sanitizing, mold remediation businesses, even pest control, I realized that you really need a support network. You really need a safety net. You really need personnel that are experienced in making this turnkey hand-holding and doing all the things that it excited you about the National Ozone Association.
They promised.
Yeah. I know you're an excellent researcher. And you've done a lot of research about this organization, and you've found some stuff out about all their different systems and equipment and BioZone. And can you talk a little bit about your
Well, what really got me researching was November 8th. I didn't want to be like everybody else. I told my wife from the beginning, when I understood BioZone, I realized I could build a BioZone business because nobody else has it. Because if this is good for 6 months, I'm building a residual income. And like the guy in Naples, if I get 1,000 pounds or so, I got $100,000 income. So I spent the entire year building a marketing plan on BioZone, where with a car dealer, I'm not going to just go ahead and remove odors. I'm going to say, I've sanitized your vehicle, and here's a certificate that's verifying it to increase the value of your vehicle.
Yes.
And homes and everything. There's a company in Canada, AllOzone, doing the same thing.
Yep.
And when I first looked at this, I only found one other company in town.
And AllOzone's franchise is $80,000, for those of you that don't know.
There's one company in town that does ozone, they advertise on their trucks. And I thought, wow, with BioZone, he's not competition, because I can walk in behind him, BioZone, and he can't touch me. And November 8th, I was getting ready to start marketing my product, and I went back to check again, and all of a sudden, his website was advertising BioZone. I'm like, no, this can't be. I've got a regional, I've got a 10-mile protected area.
You're protected.
I got a 10-mile protected territory. He said, if somebody comes in, they'll be under you, they'll work under you, you'll control the business, and up to 25 miles away from you, we'll encourage them to work with you, but you'll control the contracts in the business. And here's this company advertising BioZone. I'm like, no, I mean, this is a big company. They have trucks and crews and electrostatic sprayers. I'm like, I can't compete with these guys.
So you called up Mark Tipton.
I called him and I was angry. I said, Mark, what is up? This guy, he goes, and his response was, well, I can't control the competition, and they joined NOAI and they're marketing BioZone. I said, but I'm a regional. He said, well, there's no such thing as what you're doing. I said, so wait a minute. I wrote a really nasty email. I said, so I could have paid $200 to join NOAI and had full access to BioZone, like you said I had as a regional, and not spent my $5,000 on your machines that aren't worth anything. He said, well, you got the training and then the training materials on the website and everything. I'm like, oh my God, this guy spent $200 and now he's my competition when I was in a protected territory.
When we talk about BioZone, folks, this is a concept I created 4+ years ago called Get Sanitized. And it's something that I shared with Mark. It's one of my, in my opinion, one of my best business systems that I've developed. And it is a system where you come in and you do a routine ozone shock treatments, and then you come behind and using an expensive electrostatic fogger, which gives wraparound control of application. And I can spray this pole from one side and coat all 3 dimensions through static cling. We would apply a nano catalyst, and that nano catalyst that I selected, unlike BioZone, is space-age technology. It works using the power of oxygen, which is the power behind ozone gas. And the way that it works is you spray it onto the interior surface of a car, or into a nursing home, or a daycare facility, or a hospital, or any of the many places where you have high turnover, lots of people in contact with one another, and germs get spread. And what happens is when the lights are turned on in the morning, or when the sunlight comes through the windows, it reacts with the catalyst, creating a small electrical charge, which actually splits the water molecule apart in the air, creating hydroxyls and free radical oxygen long after the machines are gone. And so this gives the customer a comfortable feeling, knowing that that system is not just a once and done, and after the ozone machine's turned off, it's over, that it keeps on working over and over and over in between the monthly or bi-monthly or quarterly or annual or biannual applications, whatever you're able to sell them as a contractor. And so Mark basically copied that, and he created this name BioZone. Now BioZone is another company's trademark and name for a completely different product, so I don't want to get you folks that are out there in internet land confused. We're talking not about bioxylane nano coating. And folks, this is nothing new. As a matter of fact, Dow Chemical invented the technology of the organosilanes in 1975. This is a 40-year-old technology. The sales literature claims that it puts down a layer of nano spikes on the surfaces, and that when viruses and germs land on it, they get impaled, and they're thus providing a mechanical deactivation mechanism, so it's completely safe, it's non-chemical, it's non-toxic, you know.
Biostatically attractive.
He's told you what, spray it on a kid's toy and, you know, let him lick it or whatever. And now you and I had done a little bit of research. I did the research and rejected this because it is a very toxic product. And can you tell me a little bit about what you found when you started researching?
Well, my research
BioZone?
is based on the fact that I wanted to know, Mark claims 99.9% of all germs are killed. Well, I found a company that provided me documentation on their product with a log chart that shows what that means. And I asked Mark for documentation on what BioZone can do, because he's also making a hand sanitizer that says it'll kill germs for up to 12 hours. And I said, well, I need documentation. He sent, there's a thing on his website, it's a nursing home in Central Florida. They sprayed it on in a 6-month study, and up to 99% was killed, and that's just all the documentation they'd ever provided. I said, I want some scientific evidence this stuff works, because my clients want that. And he's like, well, don't tell them 12 hours, just tell them a couple, well, extended formula, a couple of hours. I said, that just makes it like everything else on the market. So I got really disenchanted and started looking around, and that's when I started talking to you about your product, because one company is coming into town. They're out of Australia, called BioProtect, and they've got the chemical test to prove this. And last month I bought a case of Mark's BioZone hand sanitizer as a door opener, and on the label it now says, now including BioProtect. Well, that's the patented trade name of the product out of Australia. So I contacted them, and they're looking into it because they think it might be a trademark infringement. And I asked Mark, what is BioProtect? He won't return a phone call or email. It's been a month and a half now.
So what did you find out about how you have to really apply the BioZone protectant, and how did Mark tell you it could be applied?
His install manual says paper mask. I emailed him about a month ago to confirm that, because I read somewhere that the chemicals, I mean, this stuff is forming a chemical bond to surfaces. So if I'm breathing it, it's going to form a chemical bond to me. And what I found is it requires a mask with a respirator on it and goggles, and should be in an area with nobody in it. Mark's manual says you can go into a business at lunchtime and just fog it out, and 20 minutes later they can come back in from lunch and all the better. I'm like, I'm afraid to use it. I'm scared to death of using it.
When you read the MSDS, it actually says call 911 for inhalation.
There's a whole thing on MSDS.
In some of the other organosilines MSDSs we found say that if you're using it in a confined space, which means indoors, you should wear a self-contained breathing apparatus. That's a SCABA, which is what the firemen wear when they go into an oxygen-deprived environment, providing you with your own self-contained air supply, because the fumes of that stuff are so poisonous, they can harm your lungs so badly you have to call 911. Yet he's telling his customers to wear a
paper mask.
A paper mask.
$1 mask, you buy 100 pounds. That's all you need. Nothing else required.
Have you fogged any of that stuff?
No, I refuse to do it. If I can get a scab, I will.
Yeah.
Until one of those oxygen. No, if I apply it, I'm going to be playing with a spray bottle on the rag inside cars. I'm not going to fog it.
I was just curious. So you did a little bit more research into the headquarters of the BioZone protectant.
Yeah, that's when I started getting, if I can say, more worried, because the people who make BioZone protectant are in Jupiter, Florida, and I found at least 2 MSDS sheets from different companies with the same exact address, the same exact product, with different names. And
what is that address? What's it look like?
Oh, when you Google it, it's a duplex, a little dumpy duplex sitting down in Miami, Florida somewhere.
So it's a residential property, not a commercial property.
It's a residential property. And that address is good for at least 3 other companies. I think I found all different companies that Mark runs that are headquartered out of that corporate headquarters.
So you found that Mark Tipton has 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different entities.
The company that sells the Ozone machines, the educational company that provides the training, the NOAI and BioZone, they're all, it's like a long con is what I call it. He's got his finger on everything, making you think that he's just farming this stuff out and joining together, but it's all just funneling the money into one place.
And you know, I think Jim McDonald is the guy that filed the paperwork for BioZone.
Yes.
And in researching my emails, I found out that Jim McDonald was a partner of Mark Tipton's, or a relative of Mark Tipton's in some way, shape, or form. I found an email going back between he and I from a few years ago that talked about Jim McDonald, and then you pointed out in one of the emails that Mark talked about how Jim McDonald and he found this BioZone.
Yeah, he said they're going to Florida to talk to the BioZone manufacturer, and I'm like, that means they're going to have a conversation with themselves, because they have the corporate name BioZone in Miami, and he made you think he was going to go talk to some big corporation when in fact he was going to go meet with Jim and take a vacation.
Right.
There's nothing else to it. They were already selling the product under that name. When I asked why it was taking so long to ship, he said, well, things are backed up, and they're backed up in your little duplex. It's looks like a one-bedroom duplex. It's a junky little place. And that's the corporate. I think they're bottling it themselves, which is why the hand sanitizer takes so long. It took me like 3 weeks to get a case of hand sanitizer. And I've been asking for 6 months for a label, and he won't provide me with a label or the PDF of a label, because I was going to put down those sample bottles. And he said, well, we can't sell sample bottles because it's a foaming product, and they don't make a small foamer. In 5 minutes, I bought a case of small foamer bottles for like $20. And he said, again, so I'm confident that they're repackaging this stuff, maybe without permission, and he doesn't want to take the chance of selling small sample bottles or small 2-ounce bottles like the other companies do. It's got me very disheartened now. I feel like.
So let's talk about, support. The reason you really fell for what you call the long con, and I didn't call it that, but you're the victim, not me, is because of all the promised support. What other kind of promises did he make about what you were going to be getting and what kind of help you were going to get? Talk about leads, call Remy. What about the website? If someone enters their contact information on your website, how does that work? Does that go right to you?
I hope so. I received 2 calls this year since setting the website up in February. They said they saw my phone number on the website. They didn't contact me through the website. And one of them was good, one wasn't. But he promised...
So in 11 months he generated 2 leads for you?
Yeah. But he promised unlimited support, and I know I've called him at least 4 or 5, 6 times in the last month and emailed him, and I've not received a reply back from anything. And I'm like, I've got questions, and you have to call him at home to get a question. If I go to the AllOzone site or the Echo Education site, he replies back, because what I do is I use a alias of mine, and he responds immediately to what I think is new business coming in, but to me, with the $5,000 invested, I don't get a return phone call or email.
Okay, so let me get this straight. If you use an alias email and enter into his marketing funnel, you get an immediate call back.
Within a day, yes.
But if you call him back as his regional, having handed the man $5,000 with your 10-mile protected territory, 10 square mile protected territory, with a question, he doesn't even return your phone calls?
When the website was first set up and he came out with a new Ozone video that you could buy, I bought it for $35 through his Echo Education Center. And like 5 weeks later, it wasn't on my website yet. Mark. I didn't get a return phone call. I called and emailed. I said, I paid for this thing. I want it on my website. And it probably took me 6 weeks to get it up on my website. And they're like, this is my $5,000 support system. It was ridiculous. Even getting these brochures, getting my name on, because I'm a Mac person, I don't do Word.
Yeah.
And I couldn't put my name on the brochures, and that took several weeks to get that put on. And it was just, it's sad. It's sad because I expected a whole lot more. I mean, I gave the man a lot of money, expecting to be able to get up and running and have a operable business. And if it wasn't for me doing it myself, I'd be...
So let's talk a little bit about that, because you actually are running a business right now.
Yes.
You are. You're doing ozone treatments. And your focus mostly is cars, right?
Well, I'm doing some ozone business cars as I'm putting together my BioZone business, because that was, my goal was the dilution rate on the BioZone, which cost $300 a gallon, was 15 to 1. 15 to 1. So my goal, my whole marketing plan was to give this to daycare centers. My cost is $15. And if they would send out my brochure to little parents explaining what I'm doing, and if I can capture their home and their cars, I can work towards, like your guy in Naples did, by getting a couple thousand clients, 6 months every repeat business, and go from there. So I was working basically on doing that to make some money on a weekly basis, just doing some cars,
But you're doing that, right? You're
Yeah.
treating cars.
Yeah.
What are you getting for an average treatment?
$75.
$75. You doing new cars or used cars?
Only used.
Only used? Are you doing it for the new lots or just used lots?
Basically, I got a guy who's a wholesale buyer.
Okay.
And he's turning to some wholesale buyers. And what he's found is a wholesale buyer is they can say no smoking, but driving the last car home, halfway home, the smoke came out of the vents, and he's like, oh, it's horrible. And he came in and we had to pull out the air filter with kicking the butt. Like he's excited to do because he realizes that he can pay $400 less for a stinky car, and rather than having somebody tear out the vent system, $75 I can solve this problem.
Now, how did you land that client?
He called me from the website.
Called you from the website. So that was the one good lead that you got out of the 2 leads. And have you gone around and hustled up any business? Have you done any free treatments for anyone or anything like that?
Now, I've gone to some car dealers, but when I first met you and I talked to Charles, Charles's wife, Larry's wife rather, said that their sons do like 25 car lots and they get like 10 or 15 a week. I don't want to be out knocking on doors all day to hopefully get a job. I want some regular, consistent income. That's why I'm looking to build a repeat business. So I've gone to some car dealerships and got that one job free deal. I've had a couple of calls when I got there. They weren't interested or they did it themselves and were happy with it, but just not a lot of interest.
So we talked a little bit about the real system, that this is the Memorex knockoff of. And are you excited at all about being able to apply the OxyGreen BioShield product?
I'm waiting for it, yes, because I spent 9 months building a marketing system based on going in and providing a nano product to kill germs that nobody can walk in behind because I can beat them on price. And I'm scared to do it with BioZone. I mean, not only is it bad for me, it could be bad for them.
Did Mark provide you with any lab studies or anything that had been done?
Not a single, just that nursing home study where they did a 6-month study.
And that wasn't his product, that was just an organosilane?
I think it was BioZone.
Okay.
But I'm not sure he did the study or where it came from. It just said this nursing home was tested, and here's what we did before and after. They tested doing all that stuff. There was nothing I'd rely on scientific. And he says in his literature, hospital tested improvement. Show me the test and show me the proof. This company out of Australia has got all kinds of scientific evidence, and that's what I want.
Yeah.
If I was a customer, in fact, my wife works at the hospital, and she said, don't tell me what it does, let me see what it does. Prove to me it does what it does, or I'm not going to buy it from you. I'm like, okay. So I was hesitant to think that now, after 9 months of putting together a marketing plan, I'm ready to start doing it, and all of a sudden, somebody else is marketing the same product in my protected territory. It's really disheartening.
So when you called Mark and you said, listen, Mark, there's some guy in my regional protected 10-mile square territory. He's offering the BioZone protected, and that's the promise you made me that caused me to pull out my wallet and hand you $5,000 for our system. Is he promised you that you'd be able to offer that BioZone protected, and that was going to be your hook for having this protected territory. And yet 2 weeks later you see a guy driving around with a bigger business and trucks and advertising the same thing you
work crews
got in your protected territory. And you asked him about it, he said again, what?
I can't control commerce in your area, and he decided to join NOAI. I said, but how do you get access to BioZone? He said, anybody that joins has access. I said, so I could have spent $200 instead of $5,000 to get access? He said, well, you're a regionalist. Yeah, and that was protected territory. He said, well, you can recruit other people to work under you, but I can't control other commerce and other businesses.
So, did you feel like you were stabbed in the back at that time?
I was stabbed in the back and the chest at the same time. I was shaking, not only because 9 months of planning just went down the tube, but now I've got to tell my wife. When we first opened, when we put his box on top of your box and opened them up, she reminded me, the first thing I said was, I think we've been scammed. And now I've got to tell her that my $5,000 investment is not a protected territory. I've got competition from a major company with crews and advertising. I've been in business for 12 years. I was more afraid of her than anything else because and when I told her, but I overcame it.
Did you spend the night on the couch?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
It hasn't been happy since then.
So you're pretty happy that you're now replacing those junky machines with some good
I'm ecstatic.
equipment.
I can do business now. When I go into I've done one apartment, and I only did it after I bought your carpet machine because I do the carpets and I leave that running propped up in the air with the 28K after I've done the things, because I put Mark's machine, I've got 3 of your pedestals.
Yeah.
And I put Mark's machines on the pedestals, and the people are like impressed to see all this equipment around.
Yeah.
I don't say, this is just a cosmetic, not doing nothing thing. But it looks impressive, and the job gets done with the carpet machine and the 28. Yeah.
Wow. So you bought Mark Tipton's NOAI package. You got what you feel is cheated.
Totally cheated.
You got some three
328s and 14.
4 crappy machines, all of which are underperforming by your admission.
One broke down after 3 times.
One broke down after 3 times. And you rely on my equipment to run the actual cash business that you are doing.
That's all I use, yeah.
So folks, if you're looking at investing in NOAI, if you're looking at buying AllOzone equipment and you want to be serious about running an ozone business, if you want to be serious about accomplishing work in the real world, what would you tell folks that are in that position?
Buy Charles' system, buy his machines. They're fabulous. I've purposely knocked them off my workbench just to see what happens after I receive Mark's with the jingling inside. I've thrown them around. I've tested what he said they can do, and they're all still working. They're durable. They're powerful. In fact, I used the carpet machine in a car the other day in the garage.
Yeah.
And I put tablecloths and towels in all the window area. And about 15 minutes later, the homeowner came out and said, "Oh!" There was one little crack in the window where the carpet got blown out. There was so much ozone coming out of the car, it filled the garage up. And I had to turn it off and take it outside. So I can't do it inside. It blew me away.
Yeah.
It's so pressurized, that cabin.
So my machines do exactly what they say they're going to do every single time.
Or more.
Or more.
They've been dependable, and your external timers are just a dream. I wouldn't use an internal timer if it was the last thing in the world.
And all your machines did come with the internal timers.
The package promised external timers. They all came with internal, and not only hard to work, but they say mine broke. The wires fell out after the 3rd try.
And none of your machines are grounded.
No. The wires going into the machine, one of the 3 wires is cut off and just tucked in the hole.
And you had to have one repaired by an electrician. What did he tell you about the machine, how it was built?
He said, I can't repair this. It's not legally grounded. Every state code requires, I think he said, a green for ground. And Mark had a brown. In fact, this guy said, I offered him a $20 gift certificate. He said, I charge $85 now. I got a master's degree in electrical engineering. He had to call another electrician in because the wiring on the timer was so screwed up. They had red on brown and green on white. And it took him like 20 minutes to figure it out. He goes, you just cost me a lot of money. So I'm doing him some free work for him. But he didn't want to do it at first because by code he would get in trouble.
Because it was in violation of Florida codes.
He said in violation of every
state's
electrical code for grounding wire. Yeah.
Wow.
And it just makes you want to run and turn them on.
Well, I'm going to do my very best, David, to stay in touch with you, to help you grow your business, and to try and partner you up with some other people that are very successful in this industry. And, I thank you so very much for taking time out of your life to share this story, because I know there are more people than you that are in your shoes and have been bit by the shiny object. And Mark Tipton's marketing it's pretty good. He's a good salesman. And folks, I've been accused of being a salesman, but the fact of the matter is I don't write any scripts. I don't do retakes in any of my videos. I shoot from the hip. I tell it like I see it. And maybe I'm not the best marketer on earth, but I'll tell you what, we sure make the best equipment. We stand behind it, and we're here to support our customers.
And the happiest day of my life was when you called and said, I'm going after Mark Tipton. Yes, it's not just me. I got somebody in the business, because I was...
He also told you a lie about one of my machines burning down somebody's house, right?
When we met at the restaurant down here, and I was recording him, I asked him, because when I went to Mark's website, as NOAI approved, and I said, how can Larry's machine, which is built in a garage, be approved? He said, well, it was tested and met all of our standards. I said, well, why isn't Charles' machine? He said, well, they're not any good, and he's never subjected them for testing. In fact, one of his guys in Key West almost burned the building down using one. I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't believe it, and I still don't believe it. And now I know it's not true, but he was disparaging your products and saying things about them that tried to make his look better. It's just...
And at the National Sales Convention, he mentioned something to you about...
He told the whole audience that there's other manufacturers out there, but they're building junky machines, they're bad businessmen, they don't know how to manage anything, and he named your machine and Max Blaster.
And he said the comment, I believe he says there's no support there.
No support, no line standing behind them.
And with Mark Tipton's organization, there's what kind of support there?
$5,000 not.
No support.
NOT, nothing there at all. Yep. You give them the money and you make it work, or you lose the money.
Man, David, thank you so very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Charles, for not walking away and letting me take this away from you.
God bless you today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're still recording, so we're good.
And you know